Okay, we're on the last two problems on the review, and problem 23 and 24 are pattern factoring. You need to recognize a pattern, and then there's a set way that they get pulled apart here. Okay, the first one is called a perfect square trinomial, and you'll notice that this is a perfect square on the back end and on the front end. This one is 2x times 2x, and the square root of 25 is also a whole number. It's 5 times 5. So 2x times 2x to get that one, 5 times 5 to get that one. Now I'm going to write those down here, 2x and 5. If you multiply those and then multiply that whole thing by 2, you get 10x doubled would be 20x. And if that's your middle term, or in this case the minus in front, either 20x or negative 20x in the middle, then you are dealing with a perfect square trinomial. Now they're very easy to factor. You just use those square roots you came up with a minute ago. So 4x squared would be 2x times itself, and 25 would be 5 times itself. And then you always use the sign of the middle value here, like that. And we could write this as 2x minus 5 squared, which is where it gets its name, perfect square trinomial, because it can be written as a perfect square. Now to check it, it's easier to check on this line. So there's my 4x squared, there's my 25, and you get a minus 10x there with another minus 10x there, which gives you the right middle term. Okay, you can always check it on your calculator if you prefer that way of doing it. You pick some number and store it for x. I always use this one. And then you type the original expression and compare it with your answer, and they should match. In this case, we get a little bit more than 6 on each one. Okay, the last one here is just a binomial, and you're going to look for a GCF first. That's always the first thing you look for. In this one, the number 4 goes into 8. Excuse me, you start with 8, and 8 doesn't divide into 50. Then go down to 4, and that doesn't go into 50. So the next biggest factor of 8 would be 2, and that does go into 50. So normally we would pull a 2 out here, but with a leading negative, you want to pull out the negative 1. All right, so what would you multiply negative 2 by to get this first term here? And that would have to be 4x squared. And then negative 2 times the second blank here has to give positive 50. And the only way to make that happen is to put a negative 25 in there. And now we're going to go ahead and break apart this problem into its factors. And this one here is called a difference. You see the subtraction in the middle of perfect squares. We normally shorten that to difference of squares. And these are very easy. You just take the square root of both ends. So 2x times 2x and 5 times 5. And then you use opposing signs, one positive, one negative. All right, now let's check this out. This gives 4x squared. Multiply it by negative 2. Check. The last times the last is negative 25. When you multiply that by negative 2, you get 50. And we got to worry about the inside term, 10x. I don't see a 10x up there, so it would seem that something's wrong here. But maybe you see ahead of me here that there's a minus 10x also, and those cancel off. So everything works. Now you can't write this one like we did the last one with that little squared, because these are actually different when you add 5, and when you subtract 5, it's not the same. So that concludes our review for Chapter 5, Sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. And hopefully you'll prepare yourself for this test by doing a good job on the companion document where you're doing your own problems.